We're Doing This Right? Is your go-to podcast for humor-infused discussions that empower women to lead, succeed, and grow.
So find your earbuds, lace up your walking shoes, or cozy up with a beverage of your choice, and let's dig in. Hello, everybody. Welcome back, and a special welcome back to my friend and co-host, Colleen. We missed you.
Hi, I missed you so much. My gosh, I'm back. Band's back together, team's back together. We're doing it. Thank you, Cheryl, for taking over running the show, literally running the show while I was gone. I was handling some stuff with my dad. He's doing much better. He had a kidney stone, which is something I don't wish on anyone, by the way. And he's also 80 and he's got some underlying health issues. So it was a little bit more involved, but he's good now. So we're back. We're here. Cheryl, you guys did 2 shows all by herself. Not that she's not very capable of doing that, but it's a lot. So
it was fine. This is all about that gentle success where we have grace for everybody. And I love you and you're totally worth it. So welcome. And today we have a guest joining us, Declutter with Danielle Taber. She's lived in an 850 square foot house for the past 7 years. She's become a pro at maximizing space, creating systems for organization, and keeping out the clutter. Then add 2 kids to that mix in the same tiny house, and her skills have gotten even sharper. She's passionate about sharing what she's learned to help you create a serene and enjoyable space for you and your family. Welcome, Danielle. How are you today?
Thanks, guys. Good morning. Hi. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited you're here because I feel like this is perfect timing. Because we're about to, when this airs, I think it'll be post-holiday season, and everybody's going to have so much more shit in their house. And we need your help. Help us. What do we do with all this shit?
Right. So I think this is kind of where Declutter with Danielle started. Like Cheryl just said, I live in a teeny tiny home. It's 850 square feet. And, at first it was just my husband and I in this home. And while that still had its space challenges, it was fine. We're 2 adults that can decide to say no to certain things. But then you throw the kids in there. And I'm going to speak about that first, because I know there's a lot of working moms, on this podcast and in your audience. So kids come with a lot of stuff, you guys. And parenting,
there's so much stuff.
There's so much stuff. Crazy. And I think there's so many things in parenting that people don't talk about and that kind of catch you by surprise. But one of the big things for me was just like how much stuff kids come with. And obviously, in today's culture, there's a solution for everything, right? There's like a halo bassinet. There's so many things at our disposal that we can help us, through our parenting journey. But then there's also like things that kids come home with from school. I have a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, and the 3-year-old goes to daycare and the 6-year-old is in 1st grade. And I am surprised if on any given day they're not coming home with something. And I don't mean just, there's artwork coming into the home, there's, projects, things like that. But there's also like candy and little Dollar Tree toys coming in the home. And just like every day there's some little trinket that they found along their way. And so what started to happen for me is like, not only did I have 2 other tiny humans to fit into this little house I have, but then I had the accumulation of all the stuff that came with that. And so just to backtrack a little bit, I feel like I've always been a really organized person. It's just part of my personality. I'm very A-type. I feel like when Cheryl and I met, we like immediately just got each other because we're both like, loud, organized, very like vocal. We're very like, we've always got like our eye on what we're doing and what we want out of life, and we won't stop until we get it. So I'm already very A-type. So being organized comes naturally to me. But when the kids got thrown into the mix, that was harder and more challenging to navigate. And so last year at this exact time, right before Christmas, I started to feel just anxious about knowing the influx of stuff that was going to be coming in our lives between, presents that my husband and I had bought the kids, presents that my parents, their grandparents would be getting the kids, things from school that were going to be coming home. And I just started going through my house, which is a regular thing that I do, but this was more intentional and pointed. And I really went through every cupboard for the first time since I had lived in this house. And you have to remember 850 square feet, I can do that in a day, which if you've got a 3,000 square foot house, that's really not possible to do in a day. But in an 850 square foot house, there's not a lot of places to hide things. So I just took a day and really edited my life knowing that the influx of holidays was upon me, and it gave me so much peace, you guys. It gave me so much just, I don't know, like the feeling of lightness, which is, I think, a feeling that is not very common this time of year. We feel like things are heavy and there's so many things on our to-do list, and we want to bring the magic for our kids and we want to bring the magic into our home. But I just felt this lightness that I hadn't felt in a long time. And the light bulb went off that this is something that I think a lot of people struggle with is, being tied down with stuff and feeling the heaviness of things that are coming into their home and into their life and how to manage that. And just what a little bit of organizing and decluttering can provide, not only to, your overall sense of like lightness, like I mentioned before, but just how it provides some clarity and peace into really prioritizing what's important to you and your family dynamic, and not getting caught up in the stuff. So that's kind of where Declutter with Danielle started. I just felt really inspired. I felt like there was a lot of people out there that probably felt the way that I felt in that moment. And then obviously, going into this time of year, it is so important because intention is what it brought for me, just living intentionally and buying intentionally. And so this is a good time of year to talk about it.
I have so much stuff, as you know. You have been to my house.
I have been to your house.
I feel like we never like officially moved in or settled. Moving with 3 little kids is like a whole different nightmare. And I'm like, we had no time ever to like focus and unpack and move because they were always here, because they're always everywhere. They just follow us everywhere. They're obsessed with us.
Well, I have to say, when I was at your house, Cheryl, doing a little bit of organizing, I had your oldest, August, like, oh my gosh, she's almost the same age as my oldest. So I feel like I was really good with her, but following me from room to room, wanting to help, wanting to know exactly what I was doing. So I get it. She's like your little shadow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the other 2 aren't sleeping. It's like ducklings following me everywhere.
Right. Let me ask you this, because you have been in my home as well. And if I remember correctly, you came over with your business partner, Rachel, on a day that was completely unannounced. Like, I didn't know you guys were stopping by until maybe 30 seconds before you pulled into my driveway. When you walked into my front door, just give me your first impression or how you felt just walking into my space.
It was very peaceful.
Okay.
It was like everything was where it belonged. And like you guys, like she said, she wasn't expecting us.
That's
so this is apparently just how this bitch lives.
That's fake.
That's why I'm doing that, because you walk in and out of your home, anywhere from 1 to 10 times a day. So imagine feeling that peacefulness every single time you come and go from your space, and what that could mean for your day to day and just your anxiety levels. And, and it's obviously always not perfect, you guys. Like, I have 2 kids. I get it. Like last night they turned my couch into a fort. And so, it got a little crazy, but there is an underlying sense of calmness here that I really enjoy and crave, and have committed to maintaining that lifestyle because of the way that it exudes out of my life from here. So I always think of things like at their core, right? So, if you're unhealthy, what became, I think of it this way sometimes. This is the best analogy I've come up with for this. If you're, a 500-pound person and your goal is to get down to 200 pounds, what at the core, first of all, is causing the weight gain, lifestyle choices. And then at the beginning, when you're 500 pounds, you're going to have to work out every single day, multiple hours a day to start getting that weight to come off. And as you get more and more and more healthy and more fit, and you get closer to 200 pounds, it's going to get easier and easier and easier. And you're going to start feeling lighter and lighter and lighter. When you get to 200 pounds, do you get to throw your hands up in the air and never work out again? Like, okay, I've hit my goal, I never need to work out again. No. But is the maintaining like that 200-pound weight going to become a lot easier? Yes, because you've put in at that point probably years of work to get down to that 200 pounds. So you don't get to never work out again, but do you get to work out maybe 3 times a week for an hour a day? Yes. And so I think about it the same with decluttering, because people always ask me, like, I want that for myself. I want that calmness. I want that simplicity in my life, but I don't know how to get there. The reason it's called Declutter with Danielle is because the very first thing that you have to do is literally declutter. You have to get rid of things that aren't serving you in your life at that moment. And that feels really heavy and hard at the beginning, because it's things that we've thought and we've taught ourselves that we need for so long that it's ingrained in who we are. And so it takes some rewiring, it takes some self-reflection, it takes some therapy. And that's why there's so many layers to this. It's not one dimensional. It's not like, okay, today I'm going to clean my closet out and that's the end of it. It's way more psychological than that. It's why have I taught myself that I need? Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, can you, because you're starting to talk to this, but I want to make sure that like it's really pointed. Can you walk us through? So like if I hired you or if Cheryl hired you, like walk us through step by step, like, okay, how does that work? Like, what's your process? And you know, I think I've seen like a slew of, at least in my area, lots of organizers coming into the field. And so what is your process? What, you know, like what differentiates you and how does that, you know, like work on your business?
It's the same process for everybody. It's the same process I use in my own home. So say you are starting in your closet, because that's what I was talking about. Let's just say we're going to start in your closet. We take everything out. We start with a clean slate. It really is, this is the mental grind of it, the mental work of it, is we go through item by item and we decide what is serving you right now. What are items that you're using right now? What are items that you're holding on to that served a past version of yourself? You know, maybe it was weight fluctuation. Maybe it was pre-kids. Maybe your mom lifestyle now, your hoodie and leggings at school drop off, but you have all these, you know, executive clothes that just aren't fitting, you know, your day-to-day life now. And what are you keeping that's the future version of yourself? People get caught up in this a lot, holding on to things that served a past version of themselves, and they're holding on to things that they're going to need someday, right? A future version of themselves. So we really think about what is working for your life right now. I mean, now is what we have, right? And I'm not saying get rid of everything you might need someday that you're going to eventually have to rebuy. That's not the point of this. The point of this is, what is really working for your life right now? And how do we get that in your space so it's easy to grab and easy to use so that the flow of your day is working better? So we take everything out and then everything we edit. You know, it's really similar if you guys have watched Home Edit. I mean, it's a similar process. Take everything out. Mm-hmm. Now, what are the top items that are part of your everyday life? And those go back in first. And then we fill back up in a way that's not crowded, that's simplistic to the eye. You know, we use tools that kind of calm the space down so that when you go to get dressed in the morning, it's so easy to grab that perfect little hoodie that you want to throw on for school drop off, or grab that cashmere sweater that makes you feel like $1 million. That should be front and center. Those items that are really your go-to items, those should be up front so that it's easy to work them into your day-to-day life. And then, you know, we create a system for items that aren't serving you right now. Maybe some of it gets donated or sold. And I do that as well. You know, I do a lot of donations. I do a lot of consignment appointments for people. I do a lot of reselling of things for people. And then if it's a store for later item, we create a system for that. So it's not overcrowding the space that is your working wardrobe, for example, but, you know, maybe it's in a drawer that's slightly harder to get to or not visual because it's an item that is not part of your day-to-day life. So it's really clearing the space, editing, and then refiling. And then not only just refiling, but refiling with intention and a system that once I leave, if I leave you, you have to be able to maintain it, right? So it's like, let's create a system so that when Declutter with Danielle is not in your home, you're able to pick up the torch and keep going. And that requires a lot of discipline, just like the person who's trying to get from 500 pounds to 200 pounds. I mean, it's a day-to-day choice to maintain it. And so I think what people see when they come over here is like, wow, this lightness feels so good, but they don't understand the discipline that it takes to maintain it. It's a day-to-day choice, you know, and it's very counterculture, because today our culture is Amazon packages and I can have anything and everything within 48 hours. But it's a day-to-day, you know, intentional choice to say no to that and to stay disciplined with intentional things coming in and out of your life.
So all of that sounds amazing. And I never want to do that by myself. I never want to do that one and never want to do that by myself. But so if you're dealing with somebody who's like, has a hard time making decisions, like Cheryl and I are like, blah, 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 blah. That sweater sucks. Buy. Those jeans don't fit. Buy. Like, I can imagine that process could take a really, really long time. How do you help somebody who, one, maybe has a lot of emotional baggage attached to clothing, which we know that is a thing, but also like, and we can talk about this later because I need a solution for this, like all the shit that kids bring home. You talked about that a little bit, like all the schoolwork and all the art projects and stuff. How do you deal with somebody who, or in your method, like has a hard time making decisions? I'm thinking about, you know, like I have family members that this would be really hard for them because one, I'm assuming they only buy a package or a certain amount of hours, right? So you can't spend 17 hours deciding whether you want to keep your sweaters or not. Like, how do you do it in a way that the person feels good about what they're doing and not like, this chick just made me throw away all my stuff? Like,
that's a great question. That's a great question, because there's a running joke in my family, like, don't leave that out or mom will get rid of it. And I totally understand that, like, not everyone is okay with moving at that speed. So I actually have a client right now that I've been working with every single week for, I want to say 3 or 4 months now, because of the exact thing that you just said. She's got a lot of emotional ties to things. She lost someone in her life at an unexpected time. And so she has a lot of what we call keepsakes, a lot of memento, like, you know, just emotional ties to things that were either from this family member or a reminder of this family member, or things that, you know, the family heirlooms, you know, we all have those. And so one is that, you know, my background is in psychology. I didn't talk about that at the beginning, but I am pretty sensitive to people's speed of how they can work through this. And what the main thing for me is, if you've got, you know, a family member's photographs and family heirlooms that have been passed to you that you want to honor and keep in your life, but they're sitting in a box in your garage and you never look at them, is that honoring those things? And so what we really try to do, again, I keep going back to the word intentional, because that's really what this is like taking those items that have been passed to us that might have emotional baggage or sentimental baggage, and figuring out how can we either use these items in our day-to-day life so that we're honoring that person, and every time we pull that item out, we're thinking of that person, or how do we get those photographs on the wall so that they're part of our life? And that helps the healing, because sometimes we shove things down and we put things away because we're not ready to go through it yet. And I feel like by the time someone hires me, they're ready. There's usually a reason I come into someone's life, whether it's something traumatic has happened, they've thrown 3 kids into the mix and they're feeling overwhelmed, they've lost a loved one, and that could have been 10 years ago, but they've just never really dealt with it. So I think of it almost like therapy. I mean, it is therapy, you guys. I'm coming into your life and I'm disrupting the way that you do things in order to better the systems in the long run. And isn't that what therapy is? I mean, it's rewiring the way that we think and processing things so that we can do it better. So it's very therapeutic. And I am, you know, I'm in sales as well. And I think part of my success there is I'm a good read on people, and I can tell when something feels heavy or sentimental, and I can stop and I can listen. And then we figure out a system of how to honor, though, you know, if they're ready to really go through those things, we figure out a better way to honor them. Because like I said, nothing is being honored just sitting in a dusty box in a garage. So incorporating those items back into your home in a way that feels special, and a way to like honor that person, or, you know, help process and help heal. And that's what this woman has told me. I mean, 3 months of getting together once a week, this has been a real big healing journey for her. And I don't think she expected that when she hired an organizer, but it really goes to show how layered all of this is. And everybody keeps things for different reasons. Hers obviously is because she lost somebody. And, we started with more lighthearted projects in her house. We've done some fun projects, her pantry, her kids' art room, things like that. But at the end of the day, we came full circle and we went back to family heirlooms and keepsakes from this person that she had lost. And that was the real reason she needed me, because all the other rooms in her house that were piling up with stuff were a symptom of that. And again, getting back to the root of why is she holding things? And that's what the root was for her. So I don't know how to answer that question, except that I'm gracious with your feelings and I will help you figure out a way to honor those items. I will never make you get rid of anything that you don't want to get rid of. And I always say that there's a live-in period to everything. So some clients are ready to get rid of things right away, like Cheryl. She was so amazing. But some people, we have what we call like a pending area, where there's things that we think we might be ready to let go of in our life, but we're not sure. So those go into like a holding area, and we process it and we think about it, and they don't leave your life until you're really ready, or maybe they don't leave at all and we figure out a better way to organize them in your home.
Is there any world where we can do this edit without me present and you can just get rid of everything in my house?
Well,
because that's
Cheryl,
that's what I'd like to sign up for.
I feel like when I came to your house, we did that. Like Cheryl can I just like dive into your project for one second?
Air my dirty laundry. Let's go.
Okay. Cheryl's such an open book, so I feel like I'm not throwing her under the bus here, but Cheryl did have like what we call like a second closet. A lot of people have this, where you've got your clothes in your regular closet that you're wearing all the time, but then you have like those clothes that are maybe special occasion or fit a different version of you, and they're like the jeans that you're going to get back into one day or whatever. Or maybe they're from a job that you used to do, but maybe you work from home now and they're just really not serving the current version of you. So a lot of people have these second closets where they shove all that stuff, right? And then years go by because it's out of sight, out of mind. So Cheryl was so good about letting me get into that second closet and really clean it out so that she could use it for overflow from her household and for other reasons. And in this case, I mean, we really wanted to get some of the girls' clothes, your daughter's clothes in that space to kind of alleviate some of the storage problems there. So Cheryl was really good about saying, nope, it can go, it can go, it can go. And I do think there's, a nice part of this too, is that I can help recoup some money. So sometimes people think in like, well, I paid a lot of money for that, so I don't want to get rid of that dress because it was a $200 dress and I might wear it again. Well, if you haven't worn it in 4 or 5 years, what are the chances you are going to wear it again? And so where I can take that nice dress and take it to a consignment store and get you some money back. So either that's money that offsets my hourly rate, or that's just money that makes you feel okay with letting it go. Or maybe that's money that, next Christmas you get to treat yourself to a dress that does fit. That part helps people let go too. So I don't just get rid of all your stuff, drop it at Goodwill and say goodbye. If there's some money in it and you've got nicer things, we find the right avenues. I work with a lot of local consignment stores and resale shops, and I have great relationships with all of them. And so that helps too, because sometimes it is financial. You just feel bad about getting rid of something that you paid a lot of money for.
I don't have a second closet. I have husband's side of the closet. That's where I keep my stuff.
Smart girl.
And he's like, when can we get rid of these things? Because I need more room. I was like, how dare you?
How dare you?
I really need that bridesmaid's dress from 20 years ago or whatever. Like, obviously. He's like, you're a crazy person.
Yeah. Well, my husband and I share a 6-foot closet, and I get it. I have 2/3 of it, so I hear you.
My favorite part of your system, Danielle, is that exactly what you described, is because I'm so overwhelmed when I finally am like, just get rid of it, get it out of the house. It's like, what's the easiest way to get it away? Goodwill, drop it off, whatever. Yeah. But there is things of value, and it was very nice to watch those things leave. And then Danielle texts me and say, okay, you have this much money. And I'm sure my husband really appreciate that. And she keeps trying to send me money, and I keep saying, no, you're coming back. We're using that towards your next visit. Do not give me a dime. Yeah, put it on your tab. We're going to keep going.
Well, and that's an interesting thing too that's come from all this, is like, I feel like yeah, sometimes people just save that money and reinvest it in me coming back over and we tackle another area of their house. But something that's been happening that I think is so awesome and so inspiring is I'll come over and we'll start on a project and maybe we do your pantry. Well, when I leave, a lot of people have been picking up the momentum of that visit, and then it already feels doable because somebody's already come over and like ripped the Band-Aid off. So I will come back in like a month and they'll be like, oh my gosh, Danielle, look at what I've done since you've been here last. And not only did they like finish the pantry that we started, but then they moved to their kids' playroom and then they moved to their closet. And so, you know, you don't always need me there. You can obviously hire me and have me there in your space doing it with you every step of the way. But you can also use me for ideas on better systems and then do some of the work yourself when I'm not there. And to watch people take the momentum of me helping them just get started and run with it has been so, so inspiring.
Well, let's talk about when you were here and it was contagious. My au pair, I turn around and my au pair's editing the girls' closet.
Yeah.
And it was just like so contagious. I'm like, yes, this is worth its weight in gold.
How do I get that germ? I have a question. So one of the things that makes me feel hesitant, I guess, about hiring an organizer, one, obviously cost, right? And we value what you do. But then what I feel like I see on social media is, well, you're going to have to pay for the organizer's time. Fine. But now I'm also going to have to pay for all the product, all the organizational product that's being put in my house, which sometimes feels counterintuitive. Like, why am I buying more shit to put in my house when the point of this is to
contain all my shit. Now I need more shit to contain all my shit. It's like,
how do we balance this idea of like overcoming, you know, one, this cost barrier, which may or may not be a thing, but it feels like it. Like, I'm like, oh God, if now I need $500 worth of stuff from the Container Store, like, is that worth it? Should I just reuse what I have? Like, how do you handle those objections, I would say, from your clients?
So the biggest mistake that I see, and I'm sorry, Cheryl, I'm going to throw you under the bus again, but the biggest mistake I see is that before I show up, somebody's already bought, 25 baskets, 25, storage tubs, whatever. Why that doesn't work and why that's not a great way to do it is because you haven't edited yet. So we don't know, even if that space, like say we're doing your hallway closet, like your linen closet, we don't even know if the stuff that's in there is going to stay there. So if all of a sudden you've bought 25 baskets that fit the shelves in that hallway closet, but I completely rework the flow of your house so that it flows better, now those baskets you've bought for that particular space are not going to work. And so I always advise people, and I know it's hard because people get excited and so they go out and they buy things. But again, we're trying to do this intentionally. So I say, please don't buy anything till I come. What I find is that one, we end up reworking the space and the things don't stay where we thought they were going to, or two, they probably already have things in their house that I can use. And it doesn't need to be, you see on the home edit, if you watch the home edit, all these plastic, everything's plastic with the labels. And I'm such a more like organic textural person. I think that the texture and like the colors that you use also add to the peaceness of my home. And I'm very like, my husband's a farmer. We live on acreage. I like the organic feel of things. I don't like plastic in my home. So I always also want to pick items that are, I guess, incongruent with the style of your vision. What do you want your home to look like? What do you want your home to feel like? If you want that cozier softness to your home and that peaceful kind of organic vibe, I'm not going to bring a bunch of plastic into your house. So one, I say, don't buy things before I show up if you are going to have me in your home. Or if you're doing it on your own, don't buy things until you've started and you've actually decided, okay, this is where these items are going to go. And then please measure, because the size of storage, systems is important as well. If you've got this huge like storage tub in your closet that's just like hanging off the shelf, that's not going to feel good. That's not going to feel peaceful. That's going to feel like it's, encroaching on your space. And so I'm very intentional with, if we do buy something, I'm very intentional with the style of it, with the size of it, the system of it. A lot of times, if we do need to buy something, say we do need something from the Container Store, we can find something in your home you're not using that we will sell to cover that cost. And so while there is, yes, money investment, I'm almost positive I can always get it back for you with that 5-year-old treadmill that's sitting in your garage that you're not using anymore, or whatever it is. I just sold some items for a woman this week that not only covered the cost of her session with me, but she's got $1,000 back in her pocket for Christmas. And so, we'll figure out a way. And maybe we can't buy the items you need right now. I've had a shared Google sheet with a client where we put it in list of priority order of these are the systems I'm suggesting. These are the items you need for these systems. Here's them in list of the priority. I think that would help your home flow better from priority 1 to 5. So when you have the money and, you do it slowly over the course of a year, start with item 1. And then that will help the flow of the kids' art room. Then start with item 2. So we can prioritize. We'll make a plan. It's a lot of, it's an overhaul and it is disruptive because I'm getting in your space. I get that. But it's also so nice to have a plan and like a vision and then see it come to life. It's so inspiring for people.
That's awesome.
Also, in my experience working with Danielle specifically, she'll see something on Marketplace, Facebook Marketplace, and she'll be like, this could really work for what we needed. So she is intentional beyond like, yeah, let's wait to buy it. She's intentional on like, where can we source this from?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm on Marketplace every day. Just checking things out.
Yeah.
A lot of burning questions. Cheryl, do you have some? You can go ahead, but I have a lot of burning questions considering.
Oh no, knock yourself out.
Yeah, you've already worked with Danielle, so move over. It's my turn.
I know, it's your turn. Turn.
Kids, schoolwork, and mail. When you come into your house with all the kids' schoolwork and all the mail, what's your process for that?
That's a great question. And I've been asked this question so many times. So I have what I call a working art bin for each of my girls. It's an open tote type of bin that slides under my bed. One says Addison Art and one says Austin Art. So those are my 2 girls. So when they come home with something special, they bring it to me. We look at it. We talk about it. It's so beautiful. I love it. And then maybe it gets hung on the fridge for a week. Maybe it doesn't, depending on, what it is. And then it goes in the open art bin, which is under mom's bed. So they pull their bin out and they put it in there. We go through that bin, we want to look at projects or we're talking about, what do we want to work on this week? Maybe we get ideas from it. But as that bin fills up, what we do is we take everything out. And when I say we, I actually mean mom does this. Mom does this when the girls aren't home. I take everything out of that bin. So now I've got a bin that's been filling up for say 6 months to a year, depending on how much art your kid brings home. And then mom decides which of these pieces are pieces that I'm going to cherish 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. Is it the piece of Minnie Mouse coloring book that my kid did 4 scribbles on and then brought it to me because she's so excited about it? Probably not. But is it the art piece that has her handprints painted on with the year and it's a Christmas tree and it's full of her little cute, chubby little 3-year-old handprints? Yeah, I'm probably going to cherish that, 10 years from now, 30 years from now. So then that goes into what I call their keepsake bin. And that's the long-term storage bin. So I have the working art file bin, and then I have the keepsake bin. Each girl has a keepsake bin tote, and I have some really pretty ones. My house is more farmhouse style, but I have some really beautiful options for that depending on the style of your home. And that's the long-term storage. Once it's gone in that bin, I've made the intentional choice to keep that item. Everything else gets recycled. And don't forget to take your recycle out, because if they find that in the recycle, they're not going to be very happy about it. There's a whole Bluey episode on that.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh man, we've all made that mistake. Once it's in that keepsake bin, it's an item that I've decided is important to me. And that doesn't mean that, the keepsake bin fills up and that doesn't need an edit maybe every 10 years. Maybe it does. But that's, again, that intentional choice of keeping the things that are special, because we can't, you guys, let's be real. We can't keep every single piece of artwork that comes home, right? We'd be overrun with paper.
Also,
it's just insane.
Don't, because guess what? My mom did. And then she gave it to me when I was grown up. And I'm like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? It's rude.
Right.
Like, what the hell am I doing with my kindergarten? Like, shit. Like, I don't, what am I doing with this?
My mom too. That's probably why I am the way that I am, you guys. My mom too. And I want to say one other thing on the keepsake bins, that you shouldn't just have a keepsake bin for your kids. Every single person in the family should have one, because there are things from our childhood, you know, certain awards we got, or our yearbooks, or our Letterman's jacket, or whatever was important to you from your childhood. Maybe you were super into sports and you have tons of sports awards that you want to show your kids someday. Those should go in your keepsake bin. Mom and dad should have one as well, you know, because how fun is that to get out and show your kids things from your childhood? I mean, my husband has been lugging around a set of Goosebumps books from his childhood. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe you have these. And then now he's like reading them to our kids. And I'm like, oh God. But, you know, it's just these funny things that are like, yeah, that was a piece of who I was. So mom and dad should have one too. I know we always think about our kids first and foremost and what they need, but mom and dad should absolutely have one as well.
Alex's keepsake bin is very, very large. And my mom, once I was an adult and had a house, she's like, you need to come and go through all these things. Like, you're going to take them home with you now. And I was like, no, just throw them all away. And she was like, no. I'm like, I don't want any of them. Why are you doing this to me? Don't give it to me. I don't want it. She made me keep one full box, but I was like, I don't care. I don't care.
But you know, and that's where we get caught up, right? Like, maybe you don't care right now, but maybe when you're 65, you have grandkids or whatever, you might care. So that's again where it's like just taking the time. It is a nuisance because you always have to like create space for things in your life. But for you, Cheryl, I mean, that's just not something you prioritize, and that's fine. But if you are a more sentimental person and you want to keep some of those items, how do you keep them and hold on to them in a way that feels good and special, that doesn't overrun your life? And that's really where my expertise comes in, because, you know, living in this little house, you guys, I've had to tackle that time and time again. You know, there's just things, one, that you need in your daily life, and two, things that are special to you that you want to keep. So how do we keep them in a way that doesn't, I mean, an 850 square foot house, if I kept every little thing and you walked in here, could feel like a prison. And, you know, there are people that live in small spaces that live that way, and it just feels so heavy. And, you know, I'm very sensitive. I'm very sensitive to environment and how that plays off my energy. And so I don't want that for my house. And that's how I've gotten so good at this, is like, you know, creating the systems and going through things. It's important. It's important to create the space that I want to live in.
Yeah. One of the things I didn't realize until recently, that it sounds like you have this, that is a benefit of like a true organizer, is all the resources that you have for, like you're talking about, consignment or donations or things like that. Like, I think that that's something that we should know more about or talk more about. It's like, not only are we just getting this stuff out of our house, but all of it can go somewhere purposeful, right? Like what you're talking about, they can get you more money back. Or, you know, I know there's a woman here who has a whole list of, she really prides herself on this whole list of donations, where anything that you might have in your house, from like paint cans to, you know, bras, old bras. Cause I'm always like, do I give those to Goodwill? Like, I don't know. That seems weird. Do we just throw away old underwear? I mean, they're clean, but like what? But I guess my point is that a really good organizer has all these resources. So you can, for us as a realtor, you're a great resource for us, right? To be like, oh yeah, here's my organizer, and X, Y, and Z. She's got all these resources. So don't worry. Once Danielle's got you, you're taken care of. Like, we don't need to worry about it. I think that's
interesting that you mentioned realtors, because that's like a quarter of the market I haven't really tapped into yet. But obviously, if you're getting your house ready to sell, one, you don't want sentimental, you know, things hanging all over it, because you need the client walking in who might be buying your home to envision their own life there. Mm-hmm. And two, you can't show a house that's super cluttered with stuff. It has to be, again, simplified. It has to feel light. It has to feel good, so that, again, the person walking in to buy that home can envision their things there. If every square inch of the wall has something hung on it, it's hard for people to see that vision. And so that's interesting you mentioned that. It will be an interesting area for me to kind of look into.
It's something
and
if
the
only
other,
you knew some realtors to help market your
I just wish I knew a few, right?
Well, I mean, we
Right.
hear quite a
Oh,
bit
gosh.
here. Like, so interestingly enough, like you're coming at it from the perspective of having a smaller home, right? And I used to live in California. I had 1,300 square foot home with 3 people with 5 in it, right? But here, like in opposite, like there are smaller homes, absolutely. But then we also have some of these huge homes that are also very overwhelming to organize and figure out how to utilize the space that you have. And even because the home is large doesn't mean that it's got good storage space and things like that. So that's often that's like a closing gift that I've given to people before, or, part of my like preferred vendors list of people that I recommend is always an organizer, because move in, move out, staging, all of those things. You've got a real big business here. And Cheryl's.
Well, yeah. And how much easier is it to pick up your life and move if you're not trying to move hundreds of pounds of things that you don't use anymore, that you don't need? I mean, if you can get ahead of that and front load that and simplify before you move, my gosh, what a gift, right?
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're hiring a moving company to do it all for you, which then, but still, then you're unpacking all that and finding a space for all that in your new home too. I mean, it's anything we're bringing into our life is just something that we have to manage. And so that's, again, we're going back to being intentional on what you bring in is so important, because, whether it's whatever you're bringing in, you're managing that item, whether you're finding a space for it, you're changing the batteries for it, you're pulling up the warranty to fix it. I mean, it's all taking time out of your day to manage that item. So I've been handed the weirdest things, you guys, to find homes for. I've been handed like old electronics is a huge one, old batteries. I mean, people know they're not just supposed to throw batteries in the trash, but then they don't know where to take them. So people have drawers of old batteries, old laptops, old cell phones, old charging cables, things like that. And that's part of this job I never thought I'd be an expert in, but now I know where to take every single one of those items so that it's not only safe for the environment, but that it's filed in the right spot. I've been handed like bags and bags of old wine corks because people know they're compostable. They don't just want it to end up in a landfill, but they don't know where to take it. So that's the luxury part of hiring an organizer, because you get to give it to me and kind of walk away from it, and it's not taking up your mental energy anymore. And I get to find the solution. And let me kind of say one other thing on that, because this is important, is that I am extremely environmentally sensitive. And that's why, I shop in consignment stores. I'm a big secondhand gal. I like things homemade. I'm not a big consumer. And so part of you giving items to me you're ready to let go with, I'm not just taking that and it's not ending up in a landfill. If there's another place for it to end up where it can be used again, I'm all for that. And I will do the work to make sure that happens. And you're not paying for that time, which is also nice. You get to just walk away and hand it over. So that's the luxury.
Danielle leaves and it leaves with her.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's not staying in your home.
This is like the best gift. So I know we're going to probably air this after the holidays, but guess what? You can give this gift anytime. And I know we have a ton of realtors that listen also, or other like service-based people, companies, like giving the gift of like an organizer. And if you're in Central California, Declutter with Danielle, is huge. Like if I wish I had somebody come help me move into my new house and organize my kitchen, my closets, my whatever. Cause similar to what you mentioned, Cheryl, like we've lived here almost 3 years and we still have boxes somewhere. We're still not fully organized. Small house to a bigger house where we had more space, but still like also some of these skills are not taught. Like some of these organizational skills are not taught and not inherent to everybody. So, or if you come from families where there are hoarder tendencies or emotional tendencies to hold on to things, you might not have these skills. So what you're doing is really lovely and really wonderful. And it's a really wonderful gift to give to somebody else. And I think it's one that makes sense for us, right? Like it really does make sense. Yeah. And it's not offensive. Like, I don't know. I feel like if my mom gifted me an organizational thing, I'd be like, what are you saying? Like, oh, right. That's also true. But that's different.
There's a lot of people I feel like that reach out to me with that exact apprehension though, that you just kind of touched on with, you know, they're not sure, they know they need help, but they're not sure they're ready to like have someone they don't know. You know, I've worked with a lot of friends obviously, but I've also been in people's homes that I've never met before. Yeah. And so here's what I say to that is like, commit to, I do 3-hour sessions and, you know, they can go as big as 5 hours, but for the very first session, I say, let's stick with 3 hours because at that point, 3 hours, one, spending 3 hours with someone you've never met before, but 2, 3 hours of the mental load of having to really think about what leaves and what goes, it's emotionally and mentally exhausting. And so kind of after 3 hours, people kind of tap out. It's all they can handle at a time. So I say, book a session. Let's date each other for a session. Let's spend 3 hours together. Let's look at your home. Let's prioritize what you want to work on by priority number 1. And let's start with something that is a small space so that we can actually in 3 hours make a difference. You know, are we going to be able to do your garage in 3 hours? Probably not, depending on how much stuff you've got in there. But if you want to tackle maybe your kitchen right now is the time of your day that's the most stressful. Maybe cooking dinner every night is the most stressful. So let's start in your kitchen. Let's go 3 hours. And if I leave and you are just like enamored and in love with what I've done, and you feel like I'm easy to be around and you're so excited to keep going, then we know it's a good fit. And maybe I leave you for a week or 2 to take that momentum and work on your own, but maybe you book me again for the next month and we keep going. And you know, you can take it so far, but then I can pick up the baton and keep pushing you. But maybe we work together for 3 hours and you're like, wow, that was a lot. I'm not ready for this. And that's okay too. So that's kind of how I just encourage people who are a little apprehensive about this process to start is like, let's just get one session on the book. Let's work together for 3 hours. And then we know if it's a good fit and if it's for you, great. And if it's not, that's okay too. You know, you've invested 3 hours of your life and that's all right. It's not for everybody.
So
what would you say to someone who is like embarrassed because they feel like, oh, I can't, like, I'm not ready to let somebody in here because there's too much shit. Like, this is embarrassing. What do you say to that person?
Okay, great. I'm really glad you actually brought this question up. I had this conversation with my amazing friend yesterday. She wants help so badly, but she won't have me over because she's embarrassed. And she's my dear friend. I've known her for 15 years. This is what I say. First of all, nothing that you're going to show me is going to freak me out. I've been in people's homes that are meticulous, that are, you could eat off the floor. They just want me in there to create better systems for them. And I've been in people's homes, you guys. I mean, this shocked me because I see myself a little bit more as a luxury like thing of helping working moms and people who are feeling overloaded change their lifestyle. But I have been in homes that are straight up out of the show quarters. I mean, I'm talking floor to ceiling. You can walk in the front door and then there's nowhere to walk from there because it's so full of stuff. So nothing that you're going to show me is going to freak me out because I've seen that and I've worked with that at this point. I've only been doing this for a year and I have seen it all. I've seen the full range of spectrum. And just like the analogy before of the 500-pound person wanting to get to 200 pounds, if the 500-pound person is too scared to walk in the gym because he's 500 pounds, he's never going to get anywhere. And it's like, yeah, it's a little uncomfortable at first, but I would hope my warm, bubbly personality, you know, I work in sales, so I come in with good energy. I keep it light. I keep it fun. If you're really ready for the help, nothing you're going to show me is going to freak me out. My entire reason for doing this is to create a better streamline in your life, starting with what you call your space, because again, that exudes out into all other areas of your life. It exudes out into your relationship with your husband, your relationship with your kids, your finances, the way that you work, the way that you prioritize your work. One thing that is so interesting about this is like, you think about, okay, well, she's coming over and she's taking things out of my life. And so, yeah, you're letting things go. But in doing that, you're seeing your priorities so much clearer. You're taking things away from your life to add richness to your life, to add fullness to your life, to add intention to your life, to strengthen the relationships in your life. And so I just think people get to a point where they know they need it so bad that they eventually just kind of have to get over it. Just like the person that just got to take that first day at the gym and just get over it and go, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So Danielle,
but nothing you will see will freak me out.
If somebody wants to get a hold of you, what's way to get a hold of you? What is your Instagram? What is your email? How do we contact you? Or website?
I would say Instagram's the best way. It's at Declutter with Danielle. I know Cheryl will put it in the show notes for you guys. I say reach out there first. I'll send you what I consider my little, agreement, which includes, it's just info on me, who I am. It's got my rates in there. It's got my process for how I resell items and how all of that shakes out. You don't pay an hourly rate for any of that, but I take a cut on that. So it's got all the specifics on all of that in there. And then if you decide, okay, yeah, this is somebody I want to work with, I want to try this, it's got a little 3-question, what's your availability like? And I really want people to be intentional of, where do you want to start? Because a lot of times I come over to your house and people are like, well, look at this. This is not working. But also look at this. This is not working. And look at this. And while I do want a tour of your house so I can get a feel of the space, if you spend the entire 3 hours just showing me what's not working, I can't dive in. And I'm pretty efficient and I'm quick. I mean, every working mom has figured out how to be efficient with their time. So I work quickly. So if you've already thought in your mind about what project you want to start with before I get there, it just makes our time together that much more effective. And then we can chat while we work and get to know each other. But I do, I'm there to help you make some results. So I think that's the best way. Reach out on Insta. If you've got a project in mind, great. And then we kind of just work with each other's schedules and see what works. And again, we start with a 3-hour session just to make sure it's a good fit.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I feel like I will message you 5 billion more questions because I want to know lots of things. But
I definitely will send you my links for the art file system I have and the keepsake boxes. I'll send you my links for those and I'll kind of send you photos of how I do that because that's a huge one for sure.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for being here. This is awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And I can't wait for January, post-holidays. You're coming back. I can see 20 baskets just sitting in the corner in this room that just are sitting there empty.
We'll put them to good use. Thanks,
okay. All right. Well, thanks, Danielle.
Bye.
And that's a wrap.